Everybody, please join me in welcoming Tom Carpenter.
Thank you, Sean. Hi, everyone. Morning. I'm sorry, this is like 20 years of Wi-Fi. Thank you very much. It really is 20 years of Wi-Fi. Well, welcome, everybody. I'm excited. Can you hear me? Let me make sure you can hear me. No? I'm on. I'm golden. So I'll leave it up to you all to make it work. So welcome to Wi-Fi Trek 2018. Over the last few days, we've had a lot of fun around here already. Some of you might have noticed that Brett Hill serenaded me the other day. It was totally amazing. I'm so touched by it. Just give a little bit of credit where credit is due. Sean already mentioned that Blake, Devin, Peter, Robert were here teaching classes before many of you arrived, and they did a phenomenal job. I heard some great feedback from all of the different attendees. So those of you that were teaching those classes, if you're in the room, could you just stand and let everybody see you, and let's recognize Blake and Robert and Devin and Peter. So if you'll stand up if you're in the room, thank you for what you did. Thank you. And now, in addition, if you're in the room and you attended one of those classes, or you were in my class, would you stand so everybody can see who's been here for the last few days? Excellent. Excellent. This is exciting. So we've had a really good time, and I just need to make sure that the people in the sound booth know that my clicker is not clicking. So we're going to need to resolve that issue as well. So if someone can take care of that, I'd appreciate it. That way, when I'm ready to get into them, we can get into them. Now, the other thing that I want to recognize is those that are here for the very first time this year. This is the 5th Wi-Fi Trek in a row, and every year we have some new faces. So if you're here for the very first time at a Wi-Fi Trek event, would you stand and let everybody see you and recognize you? Thank you. We appreciate you being here. What a large group. Wow, awesome, extraordinary. If you've been to all 5, would you stand? Okay. We love this group too. Thank you very much. Excellent. So the key thing here to understand is that there's a community in Wi-Fi that doesn't exist in any other industry. I've been around several industries since the early 90s when I first started working in the information technology world. And in all of that time, I've seen varied industries. I've seen the software development industry. I've seen the network administration industry in general, the server roles and the client configuration and management roles, and all these different parts of the industry. And I can honestly say that I've never seen a part of the industry that argues as much as the Wi-Fi people. But let me say, that's a sign of the passion that we have for what we do. And it's not a sign necessarily just that we're stubborn and arrogant. That's true too. But it's also a sign that we're passionate about what we do. Someone, in fact, was asking me the other day, when people are onboarded at CWNP, what is the most important thing for them to know? I said the most important thing they need to know is the people in the space that we serve are the most passionate people in the world about what they do. And when you understand that passion, you understand why they get frustrated about some things and overjoyed about other things, because they're passionate about this thing that they're doing. They love Wi-Fi. I don't know why. We're geeks. We like the invisible, whatever it is. I mean, when I saw the MetaGeek sunglasses, I was like, wait, we can do spectrum analysis now with sunglasses? I was so hopeful. I thought it had arrived. But it hadn't. So the reality is that we're just passionate like that. Everything about this industry makes us thrilled, either to absolute joy or absolute disgust. But that's driven out of the passion for the industry that we have. So understand, if you're newer to Wi-Fi, you have come in among a group of people that love what they're doing. You've come in among a group of people that it's not mundane to us. When a new amendment to the 802.11 standard comes out, we're excited. When a new amendment to the 802.11 standard comes out, we're also mad. And it's because we want what they're giving us, but we wanted so much more. And we had hope for so much more, because there's a passion that drives what we do. If you're passionate about Wi-Fi, what I'd like you to do right now is say thank you to 802.11 and the IEEE by a round of applause. They've done amazing things for us. Okay, and now I'm ready to click. So I need somebody to make me click. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so what I want to do is take you down a highway of Wi-Fi. And as we go down the highway of Wi-Fi, we're going to see some very important things. So it all starts with the ratification of the 802.11 standard. We like to call it 802.11 Prime or 802.11 1997, all the way back there 21 years ago. And this is when that standard was ratified. But what you may not know is there was a very calm, non-opinionated, non-forceful individual down in Georgia who was thinking about Wi-Fi and working in the networking industry. His name was Devin Aiken. So in 1997, he's working in the industry. In 1997, there was another individual who had a full head of hair, luscious locks, and he was working in a corporate position in Dublin, Ohio for a large company, and just had realized, I've gone as far as I can go in this company. I want to do something different with my life. So in July of that year, he left to start his own company, and that was me. And well, that'll become important later, so we'll come back to that. 1999 is the next important milestone along our highway. This is when the 802.11a and B amendments are ratified. And an important organization was founded, the Wireless Ethernet Compatibility Alliance. That's right, they were all about wireless Ethernet, getting Ethernet to leak out of the cables and go into the air. And so it was the wireless, yeah, they needed to change the name, and they did eventually, but it was called the Wireless Ethernet Compatibility Alliance, and they were all about saying we got to bring the industry together. We've got to find a way to make stuff work right so it can be interoperable, and we'll learn more about them later. Interestingly, it was in this year that that very calm, mild-mannered individual down in Georgia decided, you know, we need to do something about what's going on in Wi-Fi, because people don't really understand it. They don't really grasp what it's all about. And we need to help people understand that. So he goes to Kevin Sandlin, who he's already working with in some ways, and says, I think we need to do something about Wi-Fi certifications. Now, interestingly enough, some of you may remember this. I've got 20 years of Wi-Fi in here. This is amazing. Where are you at, Anders? Anders? I've got a Swedish bag right here. Did y'all see the moose? The moose made it to the stage this year. He's right up here, just in case you didn't see it. If you don't know who the moose is, don't worry, you'll find out eventually. It's scary. Anders is weird. He takes a moose with him everywhere he goes. And when I asked him for his moose, he gave it to me. It's really a weird relationship there. Okay, so this guy right here that you all love, remember him? This was the airport. A very powerful, amazing 802.11b device. Launched, I'm sure, at some event that made it sound so exciting and wonderful that it looks like a little weird spaceship that just landed from outer space. This is one of those early devices that we all have. How many of you ever worked with one of these? All right, we got a few hands in the room. Some of you, that just means you're old. Okay? So we've got some people that have worked with that device. Interestingly enough, so in this year, we could say that CWNP is an idea without a name. Not quite there yet, but the Wi-Fi highway goes on. This year, in 2000, the term Wi-Fi was coined by the Wi-Fi Alliance, and there was some mistaken understanding over the first year or so that it stood for wireless fidelity, which of course it didn't. It's just a moniker to help us be able to refer to this wonderful thing that we all love. And WECA is renamed. Now, interestingly, per the Wi-Fi Alliance website, if you take a look at it today, you'll see that they say it was renamed in 2000. However, I have a saying, and that saying is archive.org doesn't lie. And if you go to archive.org, you'll see it was actually in 2002 when they were renamed to the Wi-Fi Alliance. So sometimes we forget a little bit of history along the way, even in our own companies. And I've done a lot of digging about the history of CWNP in the last few months, and I'll tell you, I've got some dirt on some of you. But that's all right, I'm not going to share it. I have closed lips. The dirt's all good, though. It's more like dirt pudding. Oh, dirt pudding. Have you guys had dirt pudding? Oh, I'm sorry, back to the highway. So it was in 2000 then that Devin Aiken and Kevin Sandlin got together and they founded this company some of you've heard of and some of you never knew it existed, called Planet 3 Wireless. And this was the company under which they began to develop these CWNP certifications. It was also in this year that all of our favorite black and blue AP was announced. That was the WAP 11. Notice it's not the WAP 11, because I got to please certain people. It was the WAP 11 access point, and this was an 802.11b access point announced at Comdex. Some of you may have seen it. Here it is, but this is the cool version. You see, this is the cool version because it's got the 2.4 gigahertz signal booster with it that most people didn't have. Those of us who knew what we were doing, we got the signal booster. And of course, we kept it and used it with the 802.11g access point later on too, even though it was a breach of FCC regulations, but we really didn't do that, I'm just kidding. Okay, let's go on. The next step in the journey was 2001 when we realized that WEP sucks and just doesn't give the security that we actually thought we were going to get out of it. And so WEP was fully exposed in papers published in this year, and this is also the year of 9/11. And a little story you might not know about CWNP. It was in September of 2001 that CWNP was at Interop. And they had spent a significant amount of effort and money to be able to be there, to launch CWNP and let the world know that we're here. And it just happened to be that that was on September the 11th. And on September the 11th, when the planes hit the towers, the press meeting had to be canceled, needless to say. And so there was no press meeting that day. There was no opportunity to announce CWNP to the world. But in spite of that great tragedy, it didn't stop Devin and Kevin. They said, you know what? We're going to keep going with CWNP. We're going to push this thing forward because it's too important for the world, and we're going to impact and change lives with this. So they continued forward and said, we're going to call it the CWNP program. And that same year, just a couple of months later, in November of 2011, the very first CWNA training class, the CWNA exam is launched, and it all happened in Denver, Colorado at that point in time. And some people that you know were there. Of course, Devin was there, but in addition to that, Robert Bartz, he's in the room here somewhere, I think. Robert, are you still in here? He's way over here in the back corner. Robert Bartz was there that day, knew an individual that Devin and Kevin were working with, and he said, hey, there's these guys doing some Wi-Fi stuff. Maybe you should come over. And so Robert said, all right, I'll check it out. And here we are all these many, many years later, he even thinner than I, and he's still a learning partner, still doing training for CWNP, so it's quite phenomenal. Then we go on to 2002, and we had a website. CWNP.com goes live in 2002, and here's something I thought you'd all love this week based on some news of the last couple of weeks, just in case you didn't remember this little travesty. In 2002, the Wi-Fi Alliance decided we're going to call 802.11a Wi-Fi 5. You may have forgotten about that. But they indeed did, for a short period of time, say, this is what we're going to brand 802.11a as. Of course, because it worked at 5 gigahertz, right? That's the whole motivation for it. So we're going to go ahead and call this thing Wi-Fi 5. Now that's per a November 12, 2001 press release. However, by 2002, they said, not a very good idea. They killed the term and did away with it. But that was in 2002. So no, this is not the first year that Wi-Fi 5 was used to reference some version of Wi-Fi. Instead, it's the second time that Wi-Fi 5 has been used to version some version of Wi-Fi. And you know, I do find it interesting because Wi-Fi 5 is what we're all using right now, right? 802.11ac, right? We're all using Wi-Fi 5, and this is Wi-Fi Trek 5. I know they did it for that reason. That's That's the motivation behind it. They just wanted to synchronize with us. Also, it was this year that the Wi-Fi Alliance announced WPA. Now, let me take this opportunity, because I'm talking about WPA, to clear up some misconceptions. There seem to be some misconceptions floating around out there that says that WPA was a Wi-Fi Alliance certification and standard that was released as an interim solution until we could get something better. Well, actually, WPA was based on the draft of 802.11i, which included temporal key integrity protocol with RC4. And TKIP and RC4 are still in the 802.11 standard today. They're just deprecated now, and we shouldn't be using them anymore, at least as little as we possibly must. And so if you ever hear that TKIP RC4 wasn't in the standard, it was just a Wi-Fi Alliance certification. For those of you that may be newer to the industry, I don't know where that rumor got started, but it's not the case. It is and was part of the 802.11 standard, but thankfully it has been deprecated. Then we go to 2003, and in 2003, CWSP, our security certification, was available for the first time, and the first WPA certified devices were released. This is also when 802.11g was ratified in 2003. Now, those of us who love Wi-Fi, of course, had another blue and black device. That was the Linksys 802.11g WAP 54G. It was, of course, connected to a 2.4 gigahertz signal booster that none of us used. And by the way, I've had these in my garage for years, just sitting there. I just can't get rid of them. There's something about it. I can't let it go. I just have to hold on to it. I still have my Commodore 64 too, though, so I am a little bit weird in that way. The Wi-Fi Alliance, of course, started certifying BG devices to make sure that they were interoperable with each other. And then comes 2004, when CWAP was available for the first time. This, of course, was a wildly easy exam because it was written by Devin Aiken. And then in the same year, 802.11i was ratified. And this meant we had some security that was going to be good for us for quite a long time, actually. From security specification perspectives, making it through well over a decade was a pretty good accomplishment before there was really any kind of significant issues with it. And even the significant issues are taken care of quite easily and can still provide good security today. It was at this point in time, in 2004, when I actually was contacted by an individual out of Utah who said, hey, we need someone to come in and do some e-learning training for us. Somebody gave us your name. Would you be willing to come in and do it? And so I started doing some Windows Server and security e-learning for this company called LearnKey, and that was kind of a start of journey that eventually led me to CWNP. It was in 2005 that the CWNE certification was available for the first time. Also, in case you didn't know it, or maybe you didn't see Mr. Coleman's post the other day on Twitter, this is also the year that CWNP published the famous chicken and egg 802.11i white paper. If you don't know what it's about, you need to go to CWNP.com because it's still there and I still get questions about it today. Thank you, Devin. Chicken and egg. It's a wonderful concept. You'll want to read about it. This is also the year that I developed CWNA and CWSP e-learning for LearnKey for the first time. And they came to me and said, hey, we want you to do this CWNP e-learning. I said, CW what? I had not heard of CWNP at the point. And they came to me and asked if I would do training for it. So I said, I guess I'm going to have to spend some time before I do that. And so I began to investigate them, and I did the e-learning, and I got to go to a beta class that Devin taught on CWSP down in Atlanta, Georgia, and just fell in love with everything about the program. And interestingly enough, the reality is that that was also the year that Wireless Sharp was announced as a certification. And I took a trip down to Georgia. You may remember 2005 was the year of Katrina, the hurricane that hit New Orleans and did so much devastation there. And so I was down in Georgia doing some other work, and I called up Devin, and I said, hey, you busy? You doing anything? I'd like to come by and say hi. So he said, well, I'm just taking some equipment that I want to donate to the Katrina scenario, and so if you want to come and help me haul that equipment over, we can do that. And I said, let's do it. So I get to his house, and he says to me, hey, have you heard we're going to be launching a new certification? I said, no, I hadn't heard about it yet. He said, yeah, it's called Wireless Sharp, and it's going to be about all different kinds of things in wireless. Not just about 802.11 Wi-Fi, but it's also going to be about Bluetooth and Zigbee and RFID and WiMAX and all of that, but very entry level. And I said, well, that sounds really interesting, kind of an overview of the whole wireless space. And he said, yeah, it's going to be really great. We just need someone to write the book. And I said, cool. And so we go and we're hauling the equipment and we're driving around. And I remember probably 3 or 4 times he said while we're driving around, we just got to find someone to write the book and we're good. And then we get back to his house and the evening's ending and I'm going to leave and go back to where I need to go to do some consulting work the next day. And I'm literally walking out the door and he says to me, dude, you going to write this book or not? And I said, oh, you want me to write it? I was just oblivious to all of his hints all night long. I was just enjoying hanging out with a friend. And so I said, sure, put your editor in touch with me. So Tim Green contacted me, and it was the first book I wrote for the CWNP program with McGraw-Hill back in that time. And said, oh, by the way, 802.11e is ratified in this year. 2006, the wireless Sharp is available for the first time, and we also had a situation where an author was working on the CWSP study guide for a new version of CWSP, and things kind of fell apart there, and so McGraw-Hill contacted CWNP and said, who can get this book done quick? And they said, multiple people, it can't be one. They're not going to be able to do it as one person. And so McGraw-Hill contacted myself and Grant Marshall and Rich Drager and said, can you get this book done in short order? So the 3 of us together wrote the CWSP study guide that year. And also, wherever Coleman is, and I'm sure Westcott's nowhere, but wherever that Coleman is around here, this was also the first year one of their CWNA study guides for Cybex came out in 2006. And then it was in 2007 when I wrote the first official CWNA study guide from McGraw-Hill. And it was also this year that 802.11 gets a roll-up into 802.11 2007. And it was pretty big at that point, about 1,232 pages, but that's really kind of tiny by today's standards. Also in 2008, Marcus Burton joins CWNP. He joins as a lab engineer, and one of the first references you see to Marcus Burton is he attended a CWNE roundtable as a note taker and survived it and lived through it. You'll find that in an ancient blog at CWNP.com. And of course, he went on to himself later become a CWNE and works for Ruckus now. 802.11r is ratified in that year, and of course now, here we are 10 years later, so every client on the planet supports it, right? 802.11k was also ratified this year, so a pretty big year. And then the next year was life-changing for those of us in Wi-Fi because 802.11n is ratified. And all of a sudden, we've got MIMO technologies, and we've got new capabilities, higher speeds, and wider channels, and all kinds of things. So for the first time ever, starting leading up to that, but certainly after that, we had to be telling people, don't use 40 megahertz channels and 2.4 gigahertz. So that was where that phrase first started, in case you wondered. 802.11w also came out that year, gave us management frame protection. And CWTS is released, replacing wireless Sharp, because it turns out that people didn't at that point want an entry-level understanding of every wireless thing. And so we decided, let's give them entry-level Wi-Fi. Also, it was in this year that, to the heartbreak of many, Devin had to make a hard decision and decided to leave CWNP, and he went to work for Aerohive, and Marcus Burton took over product development. And then we go to 2010 and 11, where we get 802.11p, 802.11u, 802.11v, 802.11s, and then in 2012, there's heartbreak all over again. Marcus Burton decides to leave and go work for Ruckus. And the interesting thing is that this is also a sign of something amazing. It's a sign of what getting wireless certifications with CWNP can actually do for you. Because Marcus Burton, when he came to CWNP, he wasn't a wireless expert in the industry, but boy, when he left CWNP, everybody respected his writings. Everybody said this guy can explain Wi-Fi in amazing ways, and organizations wanted him. And so the reality is that understanding Wi-Fi at the depth you do as you go through CWNP certifications can absolutely change your life. It was also this year I was out in Utah, and here comes LearnKey again. I was out at Utah actually doing another e-learning shoot for LearnKey, and it was after the end of the day, and I'm out just walking down the street, and my phone rings, and I look at my phone, and it's an unrecognized number, and I usually don't answer an unrecognized number, but I decided to pick it up, and there was Kevin Sandlin on the other end of the line, and he said, hey, you got a few minutes? And I said, sure. I'm just out here walking around Salt Lake City, enjoying my favorite city in the United States of America. And it is. I love that city. And as I'm walking down that street on my way to a coffee shop, he says, well, I've got some bad news. I said, what's that? He said, Marcus is leaving. I said, you're kidding me. He's leaving? He said, absolutely. And so I'm calling you because I want you to come on board. And I said, what? And he said, I want you to come on board. I want you to come and take over product development, and I want you to run the certifications. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to give some thought about this because I've been a free man since 1997. And so the thought of having to go and, put on some handcuffs and not be free anymore, I wasn't so sure about it. So I said, I don't know, Kevin, it'll cost you, man. It'll cost you. And he said, well, you just call me back, give me a price of what it'll cost. So I called him back the next day, and I said, all right, I've given it some thought. I gave him the price. And he's like, I can do that. And I'm like, shoot. Way too low. And so it turns out that it actually came at a great time in my life, because at that time in my life I needed to stop traveling some, and I was traveling very heavily. I was traveling 48, 50 weeks a year, and it was just a time when the kids were going into the teenage years, and I really needed to stop traveling so much for a little while. And so it was a perfect time for me to be able to take an opportunity, stay at home, but also do something that I absolutely love, and that's working with the CWNP program. This program was amazing for me, did amazing things for me, not just in Wi-Fi, but just in general in my life, and it does amazing things for so many people. So I joined the team as the CTO in that year. And it was also in that year we got another roll-up, 802.11.2012. It got a little bit bigger, 2,793 pages. We got 802.11 AD ratified. May still have a future. We'll have to wait and see. We're seeing a few more devices all the time come out that support it. And it was this year that CWNE 100, David Cook, was awarded. Then, 2013, 802.11 AC was ratified. Nothing special there. 2014, the first, that was a joke, by the way. Go over well. 2014 was the first Wi-Fi Trek conference. It was held in Raleigh, North Carolina. And pre-conference training was offered there by a name that's come up already from that very first CWNA class. Robert Bartz did training for us before that conference there in Raleigh, North Carolina. And then the next year, 2015, Wi-Fi Trek is held in San Francisco. And we had a CWNE roundtable there in San Francisco. A lot of CWDs gathered in a room. We got feedback, information from them. And there was an awareness that we needed to split CWTS, but we needed something at CWNP that we didn't have, and that'll come a little bit later. And then in 2015, Brett Hill there in San Francisco had all of his gear stolen. He had a backpack with all of his expensive Wi-Fi gear in it. Somebody stole it and took off with it, probably threw it in a dumpster outside because they had no idea what the stuff was inside and thought it was worthless, but it was actually worth a lot. And the amazing thing was to watch this industry come through once again. Brett made phone calls to the different companies where he'd had his devices stolen and said, hey, what kind of price discount can I get? Wasn't asking for freebies. Said, what kind of price discount can I get? I was at Wi-Fi Trek in San Francisco and all my stuff got stolen. And one after another just said, just give us your address. And they replaced it. Amazing people in this industry. The moral of the story, though, is watch your stuff in large cities. Because, Brett's a country boy, so he didn't know that yet, but he knows now. I love you, Brett, wherever you are. You all heard me say it, whether on a piano or not. The third Wi-Fi Trek is in New Orleans, Louisiana. So we went down to New Orleans, and some of you remember that. We had a lot of fun down there. That was a great place. But also in New Orleans, or just after New Orleans that year, actually, we had CWNE 200 awarded. That was Lee Badman. A couple of you probably know him. And we had the 802.11 2016 roll-up. If you've never counted it before, it's 3,534 pages now. This is why I was telling my group earlier this week in the training class, it's time for us to start taking some deprecated things out. Basically because we need the page count to go down more than anything. It's getting really, really large. And then along comes 2017. 2017 was a huge year for CWNP. It really was a huge year. Yes, we had the fourth Wi-Fi Trek conference in Orlando. We also saw a significant spectrum analyzer for wireless LAN analysis come out for the first time in forever. We'd all been using pretty much the same stuff for years. And it was in 2017 that I was sitting there in Orlando realizing I need a sidekick. And I got a sidekick because this industry is so amazing, really is. Also, CWA 107 was released that year, but let me explain to you why it was the big year. It's not in the slide. I didn't need a reminder for this because it was February of 2017 when I got a phone call from somebody for the first time. I didn't know who this fellow was, but he had a voice that was kind of like this when he talked to me. You know, he's like, "Hey, Tom, this is Sean." And I said, "Well, hi, it's good to meet you." And it's the first time I ever talked to Sean Stallings. And I thought, okay, I'm going to feel this guy out, and I'm going to see who we've got now running this boat. Because, you know, an organization like CWNP, it's a big ship because of the time it takes to develop products and the time it takes to build resources and to make sure that exams are what they should be and so forth. And so to get it to turn from a direction to a new direction, it takes a good master at the wheel, and it takes time. So I'm thinking, who's this new person that I've got now, and is he going to get the job done? Well, I got to tell you, Sean came on in February and knows how to empower people. Since that time, we've seen a brand new CWNA. Some of you have seen just this week a brand new CWAP, a brand new CWDP. We also released 2 certifications that, remember back there when I told you in 2015 in San Francisco we had a roundtable and they said something needs to be done about this? And then you didn't notice in 2016 we had done anything about it, and you didn't notice that it had happened? Well, Sean came on board and it's done. We have CWS, we have CWT. Hundreds and hundreds of people have already taken it this year after launching in January. And so the program is having the impact that we want it to have, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But Sean Stallings came on board in 2017, and it has impacted CWNP in a very positive way overall. Now, I will tell you, though, Sean Stallings runs one wireless protocol, and it's called Wi-Fi Direct. Tell you that. All right, we're going to get to a little bit more in a moment, but it's time for us to all wake up, get energized about something really, really important. So what I would like to do is have my friend Keith Parsons come up here. Some of you may have noticed this before on Twitter. If you don't know who Keith Parsons is, the most important thing right now is not to know who he is, but to know who Jet is and to know what this cause is all about. So Keith's going to come. He's going to tell us a little bit about this syndrome, and then we're going to jump for Jet, and you'll understand what it is when Keith's done.
Oh, nice bright lights. Yes, I have 11 grandkids, and one of my youngest is named Jet. I have a wife who's a nurse, and a son who's a nurse, and a daughter who's a nurse, and another daughter-in-law who's a nurse. And when Jet was born, they saw there was something different about him. And so he was diagnosed at about 7 months with something called Angelman syndrome. It's actually a very simple genetic flaw, purely accidental. On the 15th chromosome, there's a gene you get from your mother and one from your father, and they're just, no one knows what they're for, it's just this useless little chromosome that comes in. But the mother's always wins. And in the case if that chromosome was deleted for whatever reason, you get Angelman syndrome. The symptoms are they obviously develop slowly. Normally they don't find until they're about 2 to 3 before they get diagnosed. They just have slow development. They end up not talking, not able to walk. But on the positive side, they're always totally happy. It's one of the main symptoms is just totally happy kids. And Jet's a wonderful, fun little kid. But he'll never be able to talk. And then we found through studying that there's research now that because this is such a simple genetic code, just a single little chromosome's missing, they've figured out a way to, through research, and they've actually accomplished this so far in mice, they can send in a virus with a payload, and the virus goes into the body and goes around to all the cells and flips that switch. So if your mother's chromosome was somehow deleted, it goes in and just takes the father's and replaces it, and then it cures this disease. So there's not a lot of genetic diseases that have that capability of being fixed. And so my daughter-in-law started this campaign called Jumping for Jet, and we're just trying to raise awareness, kind of like ice bucket challenges, but it's a lot safer and not warmer, and anyone can do it. So we started doing this Jumping for Jet challenge. We did some last week in Prague, and there's people all around the world who are doing it. So I totally appreciate Tom and the CWNP team helping on. So.
Absolutely. All right, so everybody stand, and we're going to get, I know Charlotte's in here somewhere. Where's
Charlotte's over
There she is. Okay, so here's Charlotte. Charlotte's going to video. Ashley's going to take pictures, and we're going to get it up on Twitter and on Facebook and so forth.
Can we bring up the house lights and down with the spots?
Yeah, so let's bring up the main lights and make it so that we can see everybody, because we want to get shots of people jumping. It's all right if the video doesn't look perfect.
Don't knock over the tables.
Yeah, make sure you've got some clear space where you can jump. Let's give it just a second. We're going to bring up the house lights. Make sure that we can see everybody in the room in the pictures. Hopefully somebody is around that can do that. All right, while they're doing that, let me say what I'd love for you to do is don't just make this happen right here. I know you guys like to goof off at conferences like this, you know? So go and jump and video it, and let's keep it going, and let's each one of us find a way to jump somewhere. You know, get a scooter and don't break it, but get a scooter. Maybe you can jump off a curb if you're good on them, you know, and get someone to video you while you're doing it. If you're not good at that, then just jump into the pool and let someone video that. But find a place to jump. Let's keep it going and spread it out to all the people that you know. Because you might think, well, there's only 10 people follow me on Twitter. And then some of you have got thousands that follow you on Twitter. But you put it all together, we're talking about hundreds of thousands that follow, right? And so if we all get together and do it, we can turn this thing viral and blast it off right here in a huge, huge way. We can change the lives of a lot of kids. So, all right?
Thank you. And to make this work good for the video, section 1, 2, 3, 4, we're kind of going to do a wave, and Charlotte can catch it as it goes through. Yeah. She wants to miss it, so I'll call it out.
Lead them.
Ready? Group 1, jump. 2, 3, 4. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Appreciate all your help.
Thank you. Do you want another one, or are you good? You good? All right. Thank you, Keith. All right. Thank you all for doing that. It's a good way to get re-energized in the middle of the presentation. And before I continue on, I just want to make sure that I've got a good time check up here. This is the right time, right? Because it didn't run for a while. Okay, great. Thank you. Excellent. So now we've talked about the Wi-Fi highway so far. We've talked about where we've been. And I just found it amazing as I was digging into the history of CWNP. I've learned a lot of it over time, but digging into it for this to find out that right there at the same time the Wi-Fi Alliance is being born, CWNP is being born. Literally at the exact same time. And so this organization has been here for us, and now us for you, right from the very beginning, right through to today. So we've talked about where we've been. What I want to do now is talk about where we are. So what happened in 2018? Well, in 2018, we updated CWDP and CWAP, again, based on feedback received before Sean Stallings came on board. But because he was here, we were given the assets, we were given the resources to make this happen. And by the way, I'm not trying to brag on Sean. If he didn't do what he did, I wouldn't be up here saying what I'm saying. So an awesome, awesome leader that we have to help us get things moving forward. So we got those updates, and they were based on a full job task analysis. And I'm going to call off these names, and if you happen to be in the room, if you would stand up and then stay standing till I'm done with all the names. But these are the people that were in Las Vegas back in March. I know it's hard to go to Las Vegas for something, isn't it? They were in Las Vegas back in March when we did this JTA. It was Robert Bartz, Manola Sar, Ryan Adzema, George Stefanik, Ravi Karangundu, Raul Dionisio, I know he's here, I know Robert's here, Peter McKenzie, he's here somewhere, Brett Hill, Adrian Granados, R. David Payne, and Don Douglas. These were all the people that spent a week or at least a few days with us. Thank you very much if you're in the room for doing that. It was an amazing time. And some of them even got to zip line over Vegas. I didn't have the guts. I'm afraid of heights. In fact, I'm so afraid of heights. Went to San Francisco with the family back this last year, and we've got a little guy, Jesse, and he is not supposed to do certain things for certain reasons. And at any rate, we get there to this big zip line that's going over the redwoods north of San Francisco. And I said, you know, someone's got to stay with Jesse. So I'll do it. I'll make the sacrifice. It was such a great excuse. Sorry, hon. The exams are live at Pearson VUE right now. They went live October the 1st. So CWDP 303, CWAP 403, they're live right now. And you can take those new exams. Not only that, but just this week, we were able to get at least up to 299 for CWNE. So almost made it, but not quite. And we also had CWS and CWT released and combined as far more popular than CWTS alone. We've literally had more than twice as many people go through CWS, CWT this year than what we had CWTS the previous year. So it showed that CWNE roundtable back in 2015 that said you need to split this apart, it needs to be smaller, it needs to be more focused on the right people. That was exactly the right feedback, and it's working well and doing great in the industry. More CWNTs, more learning partners added in 2018. And vendors are really seeing the value in partnering too. We've got several vendors already that are directly partnering with us in various ways, having their customers get certified, having their VARs get certified, different things like that, and more that we're already in discussions with now. So really amazing things happening here in 2018 so far. But now it's time for a live demo. But don't worry, this is not one of those live demos that can break. This one cannot break. So I need a volunteer. Is there a volunteer in the room that can help me out? Robert, would you come up since you raised your hand nice and early there? So, what's that? Yeah, he was, wasn't he? All right, so here's the deal. All right, you can, so we're going to go that direction first. All right, so if you want to, maybe you could just kind of stand down here and get ready to... You're going to let me throw things? Yeah, get ready to aim that way because we have some T-shirts to give out here, and so we want to make sure that these are given out. That's called I Gotcha. Oh. Take the speakers down. All right. Section 4. Let's see if I can play football. Oh my. Here we go. You did it. Come, Robert, come on up. Robert, come on back up. Come on back up. So, to tell you all a fun little story about Robert. He showed up here out at the registration booth, and I happened to be there, and he said to me, he said, is there any chance that, you know, maybe CWNE 300, it can happen at the conference if that happens to be when I get it? And I just said, Robert, I'm sorry, man, it's just not possible. I mean, the board members are here and they're busy. There's no way I'm going to get a result in. I really feel bad. I'm sorry. Oh, and he felt so bad. He was like, hey, don't worry about it. It's okay. And I'm just thinking inside, I got you. So good. Congratulations, Robert. You are CWNE number 300. All right, that's awesome. So CWNE has been here. CWNE is here, and CWNE is still growing. The growth rate of CWNE over the last few years has been really good. And you notice that we hit 100 in 2012 after 7 years. And after this 7 years, we've gone up to 200, and so by 200 more. So more than doubled the growth rate in the recent 7 years. And I only expect that to continue to grow, at least based on all the emails I get about, I'm getting ready to turn in my application, and then followed by a myriad of questions. So I think there are a lot of them on their way in, and I'm excited about that. So we've talked about where we've been. We've talked about where we are. Now we need to talk about a little bit about where we will be. So we've got plans for the upcoming year. In the upcoming year, we're going to be updating CWSP, and this will be based on a JTA that happens in the first quarter sometime. And so we will be doing a JTA in order to plan CWSP just like we did with the AP and DP updates that recently happened. So if you happen to be in the room and you are interested in participating in a job task analysis, which ultimately leads to objectives for a certification, and you are an expert in wireless security, I'd love to hear from you if you're interested in participating. We're looking for those experts in the wireless security field. So we will be performing that JTA and then launching a new version of that certification. In addition to that, there's a new certification that we're going to be releasing in 2019. It is the Certified Wireless Integration Professional. The focus of this certification, as best we can describe it now, because the JTA is not done. The JTA defines all the details of what the certification will be about. But a general description of it would be that it's going to cover integration with wired networks, cellular LTE networks, BLE, IoT in general. And yes, what many of you in this room have contacted me and said, hey, you know, the one thing that's missing in the CWNP certifications is there's no real automation or scripting or anything like that in there. So we're going to be covering automation as well in this certification. So this is where we're going to be having the opportunity to cover an awful lot of important new things going on in the wireless space at the periphery of Wi-Fi. And so what is all the stuff that we connect to, and how do we connect with it, and how do we integrate with it? So the exact topics, again, will be determined in the JTA. This is not something that we can determine before then, because certifications are built based out of a job task analysis and then the objectives that are formed from that. So you'll get more news as it comes along throughout the year next year, and our schedule at this time is an October 1 release date for both the new version of CWSP and the new CWIP certification. The details about how it will all work, the impact on the certification track to CWNE, that will also come later. We're still in the process of gathering information from the people that we value the most in what impacts the CWNE track, and that is our CWNEs. And so we're in communications with the CWNEs, gathering information from them to find out exactly how to deal with the issue. There are so many different options for what do you do when you introduce a new professional level certification, that we have to figure out what the best solution is for that CWNE community. So we'll be going through that. We'll come up with the exact details, and then we'll let you know. Now, I have a gift before I move on. I have a gift for someone else in the room. This is a gift for someone that I haven't picked yet, so I need to pick you. Now, I'm going to pick you based on a very simple thing, and that is that you're either driving home or you don't mind looking like a fool during your flight. Because what I'm about to give you is going to be odd. TSA will pull you to the side. And some of you have heard about these and always wondered, do they actually work? And now you're going to get your hands on one to play with it, because I need to get it out of my garage. So the question is, who, with all of that description, is willing to raise your hand and say, I'll take it? First hand was right here. You, my friend, are the winner of a Xeris access point that is all yours. Yes, the question, did you steal that from a past year? We were in a facility with Xeris access points, weren't we? So, good luck getting that home. Enjoy the journey. Okay. Now, another big piece of news for the coming year. We're launching CWNE.com. Now, a lot of you right now are thinking, hold on just a minute. I've had an email address at CWNE.com forever, all the way since CWNE number 5 or number 3 or number 2 or number 4. And what do you mean you're launching it? Well, it's actually going to be a website. It's really going to exist. And so instead of just being a domain name with some email addresses for some people, it's actually going to be a website. So CWNE.com is going to be, first of all, the place for CWNE application processing. So you're going to go there to submit your CWNE application. And it's going to have much clearer specifications for essays, with sample essays, sample applications, things up there to help people understand the process a little bit better. So those of you in the process will appreciate that. Those of you that are board members, you are going to fall in love with it, because it's going to make your job so very much easier, and that's one of the big goals here. Everything will be submitted through online forms, so there will be consistency in the applications received. So right now, one of the things the poor board members have to do, and I so feel for them, because I only have to review in detail some of the CWNE applications. If the CWNE application comes in and everything's there, I'm done. I hand it off to them. And they have to review it in detail. Only if it's a tie in the subcommittee that's reviewing it do I actually have to look at it in detail, because then I, as the chairman of the board, have to break that tie. So I don't have to look at all of them in detail, but they do. And one of the things that can impact their decision is whether you put a quality application together, regardless of what's in it. And we're going to help you put a quality application together by having a process that you go through that makes sure that there's some consistency across these applications, some standardization, and then it's going to be easier for everyone involved. So we're very excited about that part. Another part of it's going to be that the actual applicant will be able to go out there once every minute and check their application instead of emailing me once every minute to check their application. I'm just teasing. They don't email me that much, but you know what? I know what they're doing. They're sitting back there saying, should I email Tom today? Should I email Tom today? Should I email Tom today? And after a few weeks, okay, let me check in with Tom. Well, he responded and said it'll still be a couple of weeks. Should I email Tom today? And so there's this pain in the process, right? Well, now, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, whenever they want, they can just go and check the status of their application and see what status it's in. Have there been any votes or not? How close am I getting to possibly winning this CWNE application or certification that I desire? So that's one big part of it. But there are also going to be community features. So every CWNE will be able to be part of this website. And it's a place for a CWNE as a CWNE to be involved as much as they desire to. They can have their own separate blog that's there from their blog, or they can syndicate their own blog posts there if they want to, but they're going to be able to add content if they desire to. They're going to be able to participate in forums, so our forums will move there, and the forums at the website now will simply link over to that location, and it will become a place for the CWNEs as the heads of the community to be able to help build and foster that community. So we're very excited that CWDcom is going to be something more than just a forwarder like it's been for over a decade. Very excited about what's going on there. So this brings me to a very important point. A point to understand that as passionate as we all are about Wi-Fi, there was a group of people long, long ago in a land far, far away, and it literally is, it's, Georgia's way across the country, that they said, we want to help people, we want to have a business, we want to do something that's going to change lives. And so right there in the beginning of really the Wi-Fi revolution, CWNP was being formed by Devin Aiken, Kevin Sandlin, and others who then very shortly also got involved in building this organization. And several people that were involved in those early years are here and around, and so if you get the chance to meet them or talk to them, then you can certainly do that throughout the conference. CWNP was there right at the beginning, before any other organization was there saying, let's educate people and let's build the knowledge of Wi-Fi. CWNP was right there. And then CWNP has been there all along through the years with all the pains of some things that weren't so good in Wi-Fi and all the glories of the things that have been great in Wi-Fi. And CWNP is still here today. So the good news is CWNP will be here tomorrow as well. So we could summarize it by saying we've been, we are, and we will be CWNP. And for some of you, that's what your t-shirts say. So congratulations. You received a t-shirt from CWNE 300. Isn't that sweet? And I can already tell you that there are more CWNE applications in the pipeline. So if you're here and you're a board member, watch for those emails. So there are new applications in the pipeline. That's continuing to grow. CWNP is here to stay. And we're here to help you and to build more and more of what you need to be successful as a Wi-Fi professional. Now, as I'm coming to my closing, what I'd like to do is take just a couple of moments to recognize a couple of people that really make things happen. Sean has already mentioned them, but I really want to recognize 2 specific people that have shaped your world this week and have worked so very hard. And I'm hoping they're in the room, but if they're not, they'll get to have their names out there. And one of those is Larry. Larry, where are you at? Are you in here? If you're in here, can you wave your hand or shout? Ashley, are you in here? They're probably not. They're probably off working somewhere because that's what they're doing. Where are they? Right in front of me? Ah, There's Ashley. She's taking pictures. Where's Larry? He's carrying equipment? Of course. They were, just so you know, they were in here at like 4 o'clock this morning, still getting things done to make sure everything happened for you because of some crew issues last night. And so when there was no other local crew, they said, well, then we're the crew. We're going to get things done. They are hard workers, superstars. So I would really love it if you would give them a hand clap because they have been amazing. I've been watching them all week this week, over the weekend and leading up to now, just laboring away with such passion and heart, and I appreciate what they've done. So much so that I came in here last night and said, hey, what can I do to help? And I'm a Wi-Fi geek. I don't know how to set up this stuff. And so I said, what can I do to help? And we figured it out and got one of the screens done after about an hour and a half. And then I said, sorry, guys, I got to go to bed. And I had to take off. But they have done just such an amazing job. And I'm so impressed with the work that they've done. And I appreciate that very much. I also appreciate all of you being here. So as I wrap things up, let me just say very quickly that there's something else that's true. I've been talking about the fact that CWNP has been here. CWNP is here, and CWNP will be here. But you know what? You've been here too. So there are so many of you in this room that have been there for CWNP, that have been there for each other, that have been there in the Wi-Fi space. It has just been astounding to watch over the years. I get to hear things that maybe not everybody hears, but I've heard of people helping each other out all the way across the country when some kind of a major problem happens, and you just wouldn't expect that someone that only met at a conference is willing to help this other person so much, and yet you did. And so I am so impressed with this community, and I'm so impressed with the people that are willing to give and to help. And as I wrap things up, there are some people that I want to recognize that really helped us out at CWNP this last year. And these are people that were involved in content development for CWAP and CWDP. And some of them are in the room. I'm going to mention all their names, but some of them are in the room. Of course, Peter McKenzie was involved in the development of the CWAP courseware, involved in the CWAP exam. We also had individuals such as Brian Harkins and Landon Foster and Roel Dionisio that were involved with the CWAP materials. When it came to CWDP, we had Brian Harkins also involved there, Jason Hintersteiner, who is somewhere around here. I think he's right over in this area. Jason Hintersteiner, I told him when I read his chapter, I said, man, I've reread it. It's just such a really good piece of material, and loved that chapter. Loved all the chapters, but that one, something really struck a chord with me, and I really enjoyed it. And then we also had Manola Sar, I think I might have mentioned her name, working on that particular resource. And the other fellow, my friend, my love, my partner in the piano playing alone, that's all. And that's Brett Hill. He's around here somewhere too. So he also was involved in the development of that. Great team. I got to work with them throughout the whole summer. And they were a phenomenal team and did such great work. And I really appreciate all that they did. So if you were in the training, those are the names of the people that were involved in helping get that stuff ready for you to make sure that it was good for you to go. And I really appreciate all that they did over the summer. Would you give them a hand? Okay, and with that, what I'd like to do at this point is simply say to you, thank you very much for coming to Wi-Fi Trek 2018. Here at Wi-Fi Trek, you're going to hear a lot of technical presentations. This one was not intended to be so. It was to give you an update on CWNP and let you know why we do what we do and why we're passionate about what we do. And I'm excited about the passion that's out there in the industry. You know, we've got new technologies that are coming on the scene right now as we start to see the first AX access points being released, and everybody gets to debate and discuss. And I love that thrill of when a new technology comes along, and everybody's doing that in this industry. And it's the one industry where we get to participate in that and see that happen and even make that happen. So let me encourage you, if you've got an opinion, get out and share it. If you've got an idea, get out and share it. Tell somebody about it. If you don't know if your opinion's stupid or not, then ask somebody in private first and then get out there and share it. But the point is, make sure you're talking, because there's so much that we can do to share with each other and help each other. and we can really build this industry up even greater than it already is. This industry of professionals who are Wi-Fi experts, this industry of people who are passionate about what they do and are ready to share it with the world. So let me say to you, thank you for coming, and follow that passion and continue down that path. And now we're going to take a break for just a little while, and then we'll come back with our presentation. So thank you very much for being at Wi-Fi Trek 2018.